in the verse can stop me.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this very, very special edition of the Phoenix Press. I am joined by one of the Iron Age Knights himself, the editor extraordinaire, Daniel P. Riley. How you doing?
Doing very well. How are you?
And going off, we have the Orc Man himself, John A. Douglas, being like, and away we go. Yes, sir. We are in the final stages of the Kickstarter for Lost Kingdom. Literally 17 minutes left to go. If you wanted to back the book, this is your last chance to do so. I just put the link in the description below. Check it out. I'm kind of wondering. Yeah, so we have 4 slots left in 3 left of 9. So if you want to be a character in the book, you still have a chance. John is saying hi. Hello, hi, Daniel. He's waving. He's waving to us.
Good to see you, brother.
This has been a journey. I've grown a lot as a person. I have discovered the joys of teasing Royce with White Claw. I never realized how much fun that would be. Which, by the way, as promised, I will be writing a scene into the book where a character named Royce will be enjoying White Claw.
In the future. That is the past, that is the future.
Yes, past, present, future, all that stuff. So yeah, we've done pretty well for ourselves. 1,700. Who knows? Maybe that number might go up in the next 15 minutes. You know.
This is your last chance, people.
Literally.
At least until the book comes out.
Yeah, which let's kind of talk about that. So right now the plan is roughly about a year. In between now, I want to do like a summer 2025 full release. It may be earlier, it won't be later. It will not be later. We may finish earlier, but that's kind of what I'm shooting for right now. And so, Daniel, as a person who's kind of read the book, you kind of give your professional thoughts on like what kind of story it is and what people can kind of expect.
Well, as we've called it a few times in our advertisements, it is fantasy. So it is science fiction with a fantasy lean in a lot of the background. But personally, what's most interesting to me about the story is that it is a redemption arc from the position of a character who feels like he has failed already. Everything, any chance he had at being the better person he wishes he could be is gone. That's the position that the main character is in from the get-go. And that's a lot of us at some point in time in our lives have felt like we're at rock bottom.
Oh, this isn't just rock bottom. Rock bottom has a basement, and that basement has a basement.
Yeah, he's in about 6-7 feet underneath the basement. Yeah, that's how low he's gotten at the point where the story starts, and you really feel that in the way that Nick, wrote this character.
Yeah, I'm always like, honestly, as a writer, like as writers, we always have like these kind of things we're fascinated by. For me, I think like the thing that fascinates me the most, that I find most interesting to write, is choice. Like the choices we make, the consequences of them, and just the ramifications of a choice. You know, because sometimes, we make a choice in like the heat of passion, heat of the moment, and it's the wrong choice. And we look back and be like, oh man, I shouldn't have done that, or like, do something really stupid.
Yep.
All right, so we got a golfer's clap going on. Appreciate it.
It's one of those writers' quirks that it gets lost a lot in our modern world, the sphere of the way things that are done. There's a lot of what's known as the and then situation with storyboarding, which is a thing happens and then what. But I've always found, which really interesting point, that this came from the guys who created South Park of all things, that the therefore is a better continuance of the sentence
Yeah.
than and then. I like the way that things naturally feel like they are consequences, like they are reactions to other actions, because that's what the entire world is made of. It Anything that we do in a day influences the potential outcome, and we as authors like to sit back and dream about what the outcome could have been, and that helps us become better writers in the long run.
Yeah.
So when you find a story that deals with the therefores instead of the and thens, you know it's going to be good.
Oh, indeed. I mean, what is a story if not a series of dominoes falling on top of each other? I feel like one of the problems with modern writing is a lot of modern writers write for moments. Like they have this really cool moment in their heads, like, oh man, wouldn't it be cool if like she swept down on a dragon and like destroyed the entire army? How cool would that be? And so they write the entire story to that moment. And so you
Mhm.
basically have to warp reality to try and get yourself to that moment. Because like obviously writing is based off of plot beats, but it's a connective tissue that I think makes or breaks a lot of writers.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Also,
Um,
John is completely right. You have to earn those moments.
that is true. And that they're much better when they come naturally in the flow of the story being told than they are when they're just forced in or the story's constructed around them. A lot of that is screenwriting influence,
Yeah.
because most of the time nowadays, if you ask any author, one of the first things that they think about as potential goal is this going to be on TV at some point?
Yeah,
And with
we've
that
seen
in
this a
mind,
lot.
they construct their narrative that way.
Yeah, we see this a lot in not just novel writings, but also comics. Like the whole like, oh, this comic is just a Netflix pitch kind of thing, and
Mhm.
I think that's degrading the quality of
Correct.
things. My focus was I wanted to write a good story. Would it be cool if this got a movie or Netflix adaptation? Of course. But my focus is write a good story first.
Yep, exactly. And that should be the focus at all times. It,
Mm-hmm.
the literary word is different from physical entertainment. It always will be. Physical entertainment is technically an adaptation of the literary word. It's a
Yeah.
physical representation of something that has been put on page. So for those of you who are watching this that are interested in writing or are actively writing, I say to you, write a book,
I mean,
not a
also
movie.
let's be honest. You're gonna hate what Hollywood does to your book anyway. So why not just write a good story that you're gonna love and be the definitive version? Because that way,
There
no
is
matter
that, yeah.
what, you be like, I wrote an amazing novel. The movie sucks, but I still wrote an amazing novel. So come on, guys.
Yep. That's what I would like to be. I would like to be the author that everybody goes, the movie didn't do the book justice.
Yeah, that's the words you want to hear as an author. So Johnny Ortiz says, "Hey guys, speaking of comic, ever read Crossed? If so, um, I have not heard of Crossed.
Neither have I.
So yeah, so I can't really speak on it.
Johnny,
So
you're
we
gonna
have
have to point us in that direction so I can take a look at it and see.
exactly. So we have less than 10 minutes left to go in this thing, and yeah, this is really nerve wracking. Um, so just to let you guys know, um, when this is finished, I will be sending out a preview of like the first two chapters of the book I'll send that link out later this week, so you guys can all have a sneak peek. And as things go along, I will be sending more previews as the editing, because there's a lot of work for this book. So Daniel, in the most political terms possible, what are some issues that you have kind of seen in my book? Let's put it all out there in public.
There's not as many as you might hope there would be. There are a few scenes that I think need what I would call a little bit more dramatization, and there are some scenes that need to be shortened down in order to make the flow of the story better for the readers that are going to be enjoying it, those who've backed and those who will purchase going forward. But like we talked about before, and I think you mentioned on X probably a month ago, the overall narrative itself is very tight, and I commend you for that. The only drawbacks that I saw were certain specific moments in the narrative that go on for a little too long and start to take focus away from the enjoyment of the story itself. It gets kind of lost in the weeds a little bit. And then there are other points where I think we can, ramp up the emotional impact.
Yeah, and I'm all for that. Please tear my book to shreds.
Don't need to do that.
It's like what John was saying. It's like you like Daniel now. Just wait till his editor notes come back.
Yeah, John and I have had a couple of great conversations about his book. I did I did line editing for it and most of the formatting. I didn't really get a chance to do any deep developmental work because we were on such a schedule to make sure that it released on time. I kind of came in late to the process. But I did have a few notes for him.
This
even
book
when
sucks.
I was done.
Burn it in a fire.
No, I like to tease John by telling him that orcs are lame, but his is a fantastic.
But John was like, the fight words.
Pretty much. It's just a personal preference of mine. I'm an old school fantasy reader, so orcs are evil. They should not be what is the word? Humanized, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't want to go into that too much because that's getting into some stuff like. So 5-minute warning, everybody. If you have not backed this book, this is your last freaking chance. Oh my god.
It is a really well written book, though.
Black Crowd Affair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I keep hearing that. I need to check it out. I mean, I should because John's my buddy, but
he did a great job with it, and so did you.
And he's getting rewarded for it.
Yeah, your first draft is much better than a lot of the projects that I've come into over the course of my years doing this. I mean, you are number 92, I believe.
92? Oh, project.
My 92nd project.
I kind of credit that to the fact that, like, I'm not really a newbie writer. Obviously, I've been doing a lot of comics for a few years.
Right.
But not only that, but I've been writing on and off since, like, high school. So, obviously, that's going to help. The fact that I've done, like, stories, written stuff, and then I published comics. So, by the time I started, I only, like, published one comic. And then when I really kind of got going back in 2020, I had kind of published 2 comics, but I'd written like a lot of comic strips. So I did have some experience doing that. I think that does show up in the finished project. 3 minutes left to go. Holy crap.
Yeah, it does. But at the same time, I went into it thinking, okay, I'm going to find what I would expect to be comic book oriented storytelling, but you really had a grasp of fiction storytelling that surprised me pleasantly.
Which is weird because I kind of wrote it like a comic book almost. Where it's like a series of short stories that kind of lead up to things. Like that was literally my mentality when I was writing the book was basically I treat each chapter like an issue of a comic, and every 2 issues is kind of like a whole mini arc leading up to the main one.
Yeah, makes sense. I'm kind of doing the reverse with G Sedai. I've been doing single 32-page floppies that are 2 chapters of the first novella. So, you only get part of the whole story branching the 6 comic arc. But It's very similar because each of my chapters are written with some sort of resolution in mind. I don't like to leave things hanging ever.
Yeah, I mean the thing with comic books is you always got to put a hook at the end to get people to want to buy the next issue. And I think and if you notice, that's kind of something I did with this one, is I always kind of put a hook at the end of the chapter, which I think that kind of translates well to novels, because if you put the hook at the end of each chapter, you're like, oh, I got to see what happens next. I got to keep reading,
Absolutely.
So it does actually like that thing.
But with comic books, sometimes you get into where you lose the, like you talked about, the connective tissue in between, because you're trying to make sure that the story flows from direct scene to direct scene. Sometimes I see a lot of comic book creators who go for the impact, the action, and they kind of forget that these characters, when they're off panel, are living lives. So there needs to be things that show them living lives in some way. Ooh, we're on our 90 seconds.
Oh God, this is all right. Last chance, everybody. Last chance to buy my book. Hey, can you follow Matt Groening? He's going to adapt his Life in Hell comic. I mean, honestly, if anyone's going to do a comic adaptation of this book, it's going to be me. Trust me, I've thought about it, and if there is a comic book adaptation of this book, it will be by the Phoenix Press. I can tell you that right now. I mean, who else would do it?
Absolutely. Final minute, less than 60 seconds, folks.
God. Half of me is like, all right, it's gonna go down. It's gonna go down. No. Do you want to do like a countdown at like 10 seconds, or would that be too cringe?
It's a little cringe, but I think we can definitely cheer when we hit it.
All right. Let me see if I have a. Yeah, there's gonna be time to do.
Somebody want to start singing? It's the final countdown.
It's the final count. Oh, yeah, I'm
okay. Sorry.
All right, 15 seconds, everybody. Oh God, do it anyway. All right, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay.
All right, guys.
I wasn't expecting
We did it. We did it. We did it. 1701.
Cheers to that.
But you want to know what I'm not going to do with this book? I'm telling you what I'm not going to do. All right, let me just thank you, Tenpai. Here's what I'm not going to do with this book.
Chicken it and make a name gay.
No Disney Press for you, huh?
They have Star Wars. They don't need another Star Wars.
At this point, they're probably looking for another Star Wars because their Star Wars ain't working.
You didn't see that coming?
Oh God! So yeah,
Can we get a last minute $5? It says 1,706 on the screen.
Maybe. I wouldn't be surprised. It's 553 backers. I think we're at like 52 or something. Holy crap! Yeah, 1706. So, I think I still have like some late pledges. I have. Oh yeah, I did enable late pledges. So late pledges are still a thing.
Nice.
Let's see here. Yeah. So yeah, I still have some a few late pledges. But yeah, you can't become a character in the book anymore. Sorry. But yeah, if you want to grab the collector's edition, the physical book, or the digital book, you still have the opportunity. But yeah. That's new. It feels like Kickstarter's just like copying everything from Indiegogo now. Look at that! Look at that!
It's a joyous thing right there.
Yeah, another W for the books. So, like I said, I will be sending a preview chapter out to people. Probably the first few chapters kind of and so yeah, I'll be having a meeting with you, sir, here later, and yeah. So now that that's done, I feel like doing a
Take
reading.
a moment to enjoy it.
Yes, yes. This is what a day! What a lovely day! So here is the first draft and all of its LibreOffice goodness. All right. So Daniel, if I'm going to read a section of the book, you've read this. What do you think I should do?
Well, honestly, obviously, the first thing, that first sequence in the story is probably the most important. So I think you should just go with that.
Well, I
It's
read
what-
that on the opening. I read that for the opening.
Oh,
So
okay.
I don't want to.
You read that on the opening already.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's go with something dramatic.
All right.
I'm thinking either the for lack of a better term, the giant frog thing, or
Oh God,
the,
that's the Kappa.
yes, the Kappa, or the confrontation with the Emperor. Actually,
Oh, that's at the end.
it is, but
That's
that is a
spoilery.
really it is spoilery a little bit, but it's also a really powerful scene and very interesting.
Interesting how, sir.
Well, throughout most of the narrative, the talk of the Empire has been sort of background information. You don't get too much out of the Emperor until much later in the story. So putting your character who's at this point in the narrative realized his wrongs and made his steps towards something better for himself, even though he's not certain he can fully pull it off, to be faced with the Emperor again is, I don't want to ruin it too
Yeah.
In my opinion, it's much cooler than the Luke facing the Emperor scene in Star Wars, because you have a character who is set on his purpose, whereas Luke was a little waffly at that point, versus a character who is not necessarily the villain at the moment, but he's definitely an arch nemesis of sorts. And the way the two of them talk to each other, I found fascinating. There's a little bit of kinship, but there's also this, it felt almost smug sense of entitlement on the Emperor's part versus his newfound wisdom.
Yeah. So I did pull up the section. And I will pause to point out references I have done, because I'm already seeing a big one. Stepping out onto the surface, my ears are greeted by the deceptive familiar pitter-patter of rain hitting the shield. Letting nostalgia walk over me, I breathed in a long breath of stale, filtered air. The disc removing any toxins in the air, leaving little else. Bring my wrist up to check the display. I could tell we did not have long. Kid, the topographic map showed the cave system about 2 clicks north. We should hurry. Oh, and take this, I said, the kid barely reacting in time to catch the blaster I just tossed him. He held the gun as if it were radioactive. the kid's face contorting to a look of intense disgust. You sure about this? He asked. To be perfectly honest, I wasn't. But seeing as how literally anything could happen at any moment, I wasn't left with much of a choice. And so, off we set toward shelter. Barren craters, soon making way for rocky outcrops. The entire time, my mind was going through the list of creatures that this planet called home. Cockatrice, drowners, and there's one more I'm missing. So you usually hunt solo too. By the way, this is a Witcher reference. Those are monsters from The Witcher, by the way. Did you pick up on that?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to point that out. My thoughts are interrupted when I ran into the kid, nearly knocking him over, surprising me with how firm he stood. It seemed as if every muscle in the kid's body had frozen solid. What's got you so scared? I asked, mostly in jest, but with a hint of frustration. We had maybe 10 minutes left on our current fields, and I wanted to get to the caves without having to use a backup set. His body still stuck in place. The kid lifted his arm and pointed upwards, towards the nearest outcropping. Atop it stood a shadowy figure. His piercing red eyes, the only thing that had actual form. As if on cue, fork of lightning streaked down between us, landing just shy of 20 meters ahead of us. In its bleak flash of luminosity, I caught the sight of a creature once thought to only exist in the darkest corners of my imagination. A mixture of toad and turtle, legions of warts covering every millimeter of his scaly yellow skin. The creature's dome shell glistening in the low light. Said dome was a dark shade of green, while the ring that bonded it to its main body was dark black. It opened his mouth in what looked to be a yawn, but only a series of clicks came out. Those clicks soon coalesced into a slow but low-pitched yowl. Kappa, I whispered, not wanting to believe what I was seeing. I set the scene pretty well.
Absolutely. That's why I like it so much. It
Also,
it has
this one, the sound designer is going to have a field day with this.
Ooh.
You know, I could just see a sound designer be like, "Ooh."
Yeah, that'll be interesting. It set an action adventure tone, very similar to like the old Alan Quatermain stuff, where you're confronted with this cryptid like beast, or at least what you think is it, and the way it's described, the way the characters react to it was all very fun and very eye-catching for me anyways.
Yeah. By the way, the Kappa is a Japanese monster. It's what Bowser is based off of. So I did pull from, great, all authors. Also, come on, Jurassic Park. Shoota! Like, I sometimes I can't help myself. But it is a scene that I wanted to highlight. It's when they're on Mercury and they're getting chased by dragons. One thing I'm very, very proud of. All right, we're getting close. Because one thing that I did is I named all the ships off of after animals or mythical creatures. And I'm very proud of trying to get this here. This section where I'm Mercury, I was kind of trying to go in a more horror direction with this, with these chapters, kind of more of an alien kind of thing. Did you get that vibe?
No, didn't catch that.
Oh, well, that's fine.
But like I said, at this point, I haven't done a great deal of the developmental side of it. Most of it, I've been working on the line by line editing and reshaping the sentences.
Because as you can see, the way that Daniel described it is, I have a very staccato style. and you guys are seeing that.
If you like the old hard boiled gumshoe style detective stories where the lead doesn't quite complete a sentence when he talks to himself in his head, that's what I work with. I'm just trying to make sure that we keep that tone of voice but still make each sentence flow correctly. Because a lot of the time it was period, little bit of information, period, little bit of information, period. And what I wanted to do was start to blend some of those sentences together so that it enhances the internal monologue that's going on of him telling all of these events while you feel like you're experiencing them alongside him.
And I'm going to do what I'm told because Daniel knows what the frick he's doing. Which is why I don't mind sharing all this stuff, because this is going to be wildly different by the time. Like, the story's going to be the same, but a lot of this is going to be wildly different by the time people get it.
The story itself won't change very much. None of my notes had anything to do with altering the actual details of the events. It's more specifically working on the narrative tone and occasionally increasing the dramatic effect of some scenes so that it stays fun for the reader.
Yeah. I can't remember, like, I think I was trying to say threefer at that one, but you know, this is like 4 years ago that I'd probably written this. So, doing what I was told, I shot a threefer at the stack of biohazard containers. Neely had hastily propped up. A tiny explosion, followed by a plume of neon green smoke, wafted up to the roof, quickly eating it away. Once the gas had done its job, I could see 3 wyverns circling above us, their mouths filled to the prime with fiery plasma death, the very thing they were known for. See, like, this is what I love. You hear this, you're thinking, oh, they're dragons. They're getting chased by dragons. But no, they're actual spaceships, but they look like dragons. So, basically, they're getting, it's like a pill bug being chased by dragons in the atmosphere. That's kind of what I was trying to go for. They held their fire, for even they were not stupid enough to ignite a noxious fume such as this. Scumbags, you may have brought yourself in a half hour at most. If you surrender before the gas break, we promise not to kill you. On the spot, at least. Nelia sent me a sly smile. A smile I was quite familiar with. It's almost like old times have come again. So one thing I want to ask you. Obviously, you could tell that's how I did him thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that was a good way of going about it?
With the italics, as some call it, but I call them italics. Yes. A lot of authors do that when they're doing, particularly with first-person storytelling. I've learned. I just recently wrote a first-person book myself. I'm not a big fan of doing it, but it creates a delineation between the two because you are constantly reminded when you're reading through the story that this is being told to you, but he's also in that moment telling you what he was thinking too. So
yeah, because like I've had lots of people say like
between the two.
Why don't you just have him say like blah blah blah? I thought or I think, because I mean that's cool, but it kind of gets annoying after a while. They always have that.
Yeah, it's not as well. People don't really do that very often. Occasionally, you'll get someone who says, "Yeah," and I thought to myself. So
and even in this book, I do that, but
having it in a little bit is fine. But if you really want to add a little, I guess it might be considered slightly fourth wall breaking, then the italics way is the way to go.
Yeah. Let's see here. There was a brief pause before she turned her attention to the other pilots, flicking on the outbound communications. I have a better idea. How about we just get on with it? Really ignite our passions. Like, oh.
Dad jokes.
But I'm sorry, that's staying in there, Daniel. That's staying in there.
I have no problem with dad jokes.
It's a really good joke, though. Come on. It's a really good joke, though.
Yeah, it was. And going back a little bit, what I when I was first reading the description of the wyverns, however you want to pronounce it, powering up that main weapon, that's exactly what I imagined, because I had a little bit of old school cartoon in my head at that point, where you have these long, kind of sleek ships with wide out wings, almost kite like, and then you have this maw at the tip of the ship that energy forms inside of before it launches.
Yeah, I tried really hard to kind of paint a picture in people's heads, like describe it enough that people can kind of like, because here's the thing, I don't know if other writers do it, so I'm not claiming to be original. But when I'm writing, I'm literally playing out the scenes in my head. So like these books are basically movies in my head that I'm just writing down.
A lot of writers do, yes.
So like I'm playing the scenes out in my head and then I write it down. So like when I see the wyverns, I can see the wyverns in my head. Like I can perfectly see them. Like I see the angles. Like I'm basically directing a movie in my head and then writing it down. I think that helps with the visuals.
Yeah, it definitely helps for combat sequences. I do the same thing, and I get a lot of praise for combat, because when I'm thinking about it as if I'm standing in the middle of what's happening, and I can kind of 360 degree observe the motion of everyone involved in the scene.
Yeah, and one thing I really did try really hard to have like a wide variety of like types of combat. Like obviously you got your gunplay, you got your fist fights, but I really wanted, like, I gotta have space dogfights. Like probably one of my favorites is when him and the kid are teaming up with like the drones, and that's like, see, I did plot this out, but I didn't really have Juice's backstory as like the fighter pilot thing really fleshed out. But when I was writing that scene with the drones, you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
There is a certain scene. It's like, that's how you do it, blank style. You know, it's like, that's like, okay, I know it. Like, and it's like, all right, I can do my Top Gun. Yeah. Yeah. Just I some like looking back, I do love some of the wordings choices I use. It's the beautiful sympathy of destruction symphony. But yeah. Any other parts you want to? Okay, another thing is part of the development was they're originally like, I was a little bit too close to Star Wars because originally they were called just the Alliance. So I started to call it like the Spartan Alliance, just, you know, make it like a total, not a total Star Wars knockoff. Which, by the way, Daniel, if you want to change the name to like the Spartan Alliance or the Empire or the Kingdom, I'm all for that. Okay, just note that down.
We'll discuss it. There really isn't that much you can do with those concepts because they are going to be the same thing, but I wouldn't worry too much about it.
Okay. Also, I don't know if you guys have noticed, like, I had a lot of fun with the chapter titles.
I love chapter titles.
Yeah, like, for example, I've noticed A Drink to Our Youth is literally a Skyrim reference. Oh god. Some of my favorites. All right, John, I'm gonna hire you to do an orc version of Lost Kingdom where everyone is just orcs. Yes, I like, or maybe for like
but John wouldn't like it.
Also, said Daniel, if you ever want me, like, if you ever say like, okay, these chapter titles are too cringy, like if you make me change the chapter titles, that is fine. Like you're seeing this, that. Right? Please don't hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
No, I have to finish this. Oh, like, yeah, like I literally like, what is love? Say to her.
Yep, I got that.
But the other
those
thing
sorts of things don't need to be changed.
Okay, because like for like I did try to have the chapter titles be related.
Mhm.
Oh god, this might actually happen now. What have I done? No more. Okay, well they like it. So like I do try to have like when I'm doing like the mini story arcs, I like the chapter titles to be related. So in to the fire pit, get it?
Mhm.
Um, and then escape from the frying pan. Well, you know, play off of that. Let's see here. It's kind of going down, 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 burn. A rock.
And
God.
inevitably,
Yeah, you know it's coming.
I think we all know it's
A
coming.
hard place.
Yep.
Oh god, this is just like I'm cringing, but I'm smiling at the same time.
Yeah,
Uh,
chapter titles are fun. You get to be a little bit witty with what you're doing, and that's why I said they don't need to be changed. It's a glimpse more into the author's mind than it is and when it can fit with the narrative of what's going on, that's what makes it super fun.
yeah.
Or if it's just pithy. I have a chapter in my upcoming release that's literally just called Zachary Henson Must Die.
Oh god. Oh. Let's see here. So we got a tangled web. Now we
Now
weave.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm just showing the chapter titles because why not? I don't think that's that big of a deal.
It's fun.
I drink. So okay, I do want to kind of get into some stuff. So the reason why, like, I have like all these like two-parter, and then all of a sudden you have this random like one-shot chapter, is because when I was writing the book, I realized, okay, I don't have enough character development for these people. You know, like between him and the kid. Oh God, John, I hate you.
What did he say?
But
Shouldn't be afraid of spoilers. Spoilers are a good thing.
yeah, it means people like your stuff. Basically it's like, okay, kid, we made some progress, but I'm not there because one of the important things, what I'm really proud of, is like there's a point where Juice has to become, okay, I want to be better, but he's not instantly better, you know.
Correct.
And this is kind of where that chapter where it's like I needed to kind of spell that out to people. So that's, now that I'm explaining that, do you kind of get that better, Daniel?
Oh, I got it while I was reading it.
You're like, okay, yeah, that's the whole purpose of this chapter, kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And that's why it's called Drink to Our Youth.
A little bit of nostalgia, a little bit of looking back, and a opportunity for him to very, very lightly reconnect with the person that he wanted to be all along, but failed to be.
Yeah, and then also throughout the flashbacks, you realize there's also a bit of like the father kind of pushed him into certain places he didn't want to be. So there's that. I will say
Personal background.
if I were to say my favorite chapter to write, it would be chapter 11, because it was like, okay, the kid and him, they've got their stuff back, so now I can write fun. Fun. Like it was really fun to write because, like, okay, they like each other now, kind of thing. It was very, very fulfilling.
Yeah, but it still felt like a gradual, natural system of development for both characters. Them finding that ground together finally, because there were hints of it in all of the chapters preceding that. You know, the cave scene after the Kappa, there was a little hint of connection there. One of the scenes in the ship, there was a little bit of connection there too, where you had your it wasn't quite that way, but it was kind of like the you want to drive for a little bit, kid kind of moment.
I'm gonna be honest. If I remember correctly, that scene that is totally ripped off from Titan AE.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot of Titan AE in this book. I literally just ripped off the Drifter colonies. If you want to say like the it's kind of like you got some Corso and Kale relationship in there, you know, I'm a Titan AE fan. Okay.
It's a good strong trope. You know, this kid has nobody in his life, and now he's saddled with this dude who every once in a while seems like he could be a legit cool person to be around, but most of the time he's a raging asshole.
I love how blunt you are. I love it. Yeah, I'm just showing a spark of hope. And this is also the thing I really like is those 3 chapters are pretty much the climax of the book, if you think about it. And these 2 chapters at the end are kind of prologue. So I have a 3-chapter epilogue, kind of, yeah. But also the thing is, I kind of want to do this, like, okay, we did what we wanted. A spark of hope, starting the fire. Not my best thing. But
it makes sense for the scene.
Yeah, for sure. Also, you notice how the first chapter was called Something Ends, and the last chapter is called Something Begins.
Yeah, good wrap up.
Yeah. And yes, this is the last chapter. I'm not going to show the end, but this is just me doing my best Spaceballs.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
a little bit of Spaceballs, a little bit of Restaurant at the End of the Universe.
I wouldn't know, but
that's how I saw it. I was like, "Ooh, okay, we got a little Restaurant at the End of the Universe here."
Yeah. So I'm trying to look for a certain reference I want to go to. Okay. But I was just getting the good part, the kid said, before catching on to what I was getting at. Besides, I was about to eat the special. You don't want that, I told him, opening the ramp to our ship. Last one I heard, or the special, their chest burst and danced on the counter.
Direct Spaceballs.
I'm sorry, I love my references and just, like, I just couldn't help it. Oh. Do you think that was too much?
I glitched out for a sec.
Oh, you did. That you did, sir.
It happens.
Okay. But do you think that Spaceball thing was a little bit too much?
I could take it or leave it. I mean, it is directly on the nose, but at the same time, it doesn't really hurt anything either.
Plus, it's kind of the end of the book, so who freaking cares?
Yeah, it's fun to play a little bit.
Yeah, if there's any references or stuff that you feel like I should rein in, feel free to call me out on it. So,
yeah, I will if I feel like.
But John, you're dang right, I did, and I will do it again. So let's wrap this thing up here. This was fun.
All this hate for Dumbledore.
Oh god, he's too happy. He's too happy. Yeah, Daniel got it. He got it. All right. So thank you everybody for backing Lost Kingdom. And I'm just gonna say, if you did back it, please make sure you have enough money on your credit card so that the things can go through. Because I'm telling you, the first thing I'm going in there and I'm gonna check. All right, whose credit card went through, and I have to message some people. You know, just the usual post Kickstarter stuff. Thankfully, it's probably going to be about 6 months before I have to start hounding people for surveys. That's always fun. But thank you everyone for making this a thing. Lost Kingdom 2 will happen. It will happen if I have to kill myself in the process. I'll probably be working from the start with Daniel on that one, if possible.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So thank you, everyone, and remember, I can only show you the door. You have to walk through it.